Hey guys, welcome to HipHughes History. We're going to talk a little bit about the Speaker of the House in this episode. Kevin McCarthy announced today, October 8th, 2015, that he's not going to seek that position because he doesn't have the votes in the Republican caucus. John Boehner, of course, has announced he's stepping down, and what are we going to do? But it's the perfect moment to explain a little bit about how the Speaker of the House gets elected, what are kind of the roles of the Speaker of the House, why this is such a big deal, not only in terms of kind of constitutional and congressional stuff, but because this is how we run the country. So the Constitution makes mention of the Speaker of the House by saying in Article 1, Section 2 that the House of Representatives shall choose their own Speaker. So every cycle, every congressional year, they get together and they vote. All of the House of Representatives vote. And the way that it unwrittenly has played out is that each party puts their nominee forward, and then there's a vote, and of course the majority vote is going to win that vote. There's been very few crossover votes. The last time, I think, somebody voted for Dennis Hastrick from the Democratic Party in 2000, and then the Democratic Party kind of cut his head off. So that generally doesn't happen. But what's interesting is that it doesn't have to be a House of Representative member. It could be like an actor, or it could be like a plumber or a waitress. It could be anybody. So that might be an interesting mix into what's going on right now, because if you had a bipartisan effort with maybe some Republicans on the inside and Democrats that are a little bit more moderate or conservative coming together and choosing somebody who could run Congress until they figure things out. But nevertheless, that's how they're elected. Everything else is pretty much unwritten, but it is a huge job. Think of like the Wizard of Oz and the guy behind the curtain. Not only are they third in line for the president, but they really are the gatekeeper. They're the ones who decide whether and when bills are going to come up for a vote in Congress. And in a sense, they're very partisan because they don't want to bring a bill up that's going to be defeated. So a lot of their job is organizing the vote, making sure they have enough votes with their whip, and then putting it, forward. They also choose 9 of the 13 on the Rules Committee. That's a humongous deal. This is really the kind of a committee in Congress that makes things run. So they don't vote often, they don't debate often. They kind of sit in that smoky cigar room in the back and pull the levers of government. But that's a huge, huge deal. And without a competent Speaker of the House, you really do not have a functional House of Representatives. So let's talk a little bit about the current situation, and then if I remember anything, we'll bring something up about the Speaker of the House that I forgot. So John Boehner has been the Speaker of the House for quite a long time, and he recently announced that he's stepping down. And the only time that you have an election is if there's a new Congress coming in, or if there's a death or the resignation of the current Speaker of the House. That's why this is going on right now. He wants to step down on October 30th, giving the Republicans a few weeks, almost a month, to put together an election and to elect the next Speaker of the House. But they're not able to do that functionally. The Republican Party has undergone a huge split, really since the election of Barack Obama. When Barack Obama was elected, there was a lot of anger that this, in the eyes of the Republican Party, that this liberal was allowed to get elected. So not only were they, the Republican Party, the ones that were upset, kind of, putting their anger onto Barack Obama, but also onto kind of the establishment of the Republican Party, the George W. Bush Republican Party, blaming them, in a sense, what they saw was a betrayal of conservatism, that they were spending too much money. They weren't fiscally responsible. They were, too many social welfare programs that they were supporting, that they wanted to draw a line in the sand. So they really had a revolution within the Republican Party, of course the Tea Party revolution, the Freedom Caucus in the House, where there's probably a good solid 35, 40 of these guys that were elected, promising their constituents, I'm not going to make these deals. I'm going to be the clean, good conservative. And the Republican Party, the other 150 of them, more, right, are the ones that, are used to being politicians. And that means working with the other side to make government run and be functional. And that caucus that we talked about, they don't want to do that. For their own reasons. They say, let's just break the damn thing down so we can rebuild it up, but let's stop playing this game of just kind of feeding the monster. So let's take a stand on ideology and principle. And John Boehner really has kind of had his brains ripped out over this, because when he wants to make government run, and he goes to his caucus and he says, all right, here's a bill, we've worked on it, this is a good deal, that small minority, right, is saying, no deal, we're not going to do that. And that really has caused him to have an inability to run the House effectively. That's why there's not a lot of bills coming out of the House, not to mention that Barack Obama's going to veto them anyway in the Senate. They don't, they have to filibuster, but that's another story. So basically, John Boehner, he said, I can't do this anymore. I just want to have cigars, play golf, and forget about life for a while. So I'll step down. And then he said, okay, Kevin McCarthy. This is the guy who has supported the Tea Party, who has raised money for a lot of these people in that Freedom Caucus. He's a guy who can form those relationships to make these deals happen. And today, October 8th, 2015, Kevin McCarthy, I guess, came out of a meeting with these guys and said, it's not going to happen. They're not going to vote for me because I have a record where, I've compromised a little bit. I've done some things. Not to mention, I have maybe some problems with my speech sometimes on TV, but that's not the huge issue for the Tea Party. It's that you're a compromiser. We're not going to elect you. So then who? So Paul Ryan seemed like the next logical choice because he's a darling of the Tea Party. He's got a huge national name. He ran with Romney. This is a guy with a bright future. So they went to Paul Ryan. They said, Paul Ryan, this was today. Paul Ryan, Speaker of the House, it's yours. Save us. Paul Ryan's like, I don't think so. No way. I don't want that. Why? Because they have to run government and they have to deal with that caucus. So there's things coming up. There's going to be a government shutdown over the budget because this group is dedicated to conservatism and they say, we're not going to fund Planned Parenthood. And if that means shutting down the government, then, that's what we need to do. And the other side is saying, well, you can't do that. Because then not only are we going to have this huge government shutdown that's going to cost us money and credit ratings, we're going to have all these problems, but it's going to hurt the Republican brand. We're going to be seen as the obstructors. And they say, good, let's be the obstructors. Trump's one of those obstructors, right? This outsiders versus insiders game. That's what's going on right now. You're watching it. It's a civil war in the GOP. And of course, the Democrats are giddy, but this could come to bite them in the butt later on. Who knows? So what are the possibilities? I think there's probably two, maybe three. I don't think they could find a crazy person. Because if they found a crazy person, they wouldn't get the support from the moderates in the Republican Party or the ones that want to compromise. I don't think they can find anybody. So either John Boehner's going to have to come back and say, okay, I'm not going to go on Jimmy Kimmel. I'm not going to smoke cigars and play golf all day. I guess I'll stick this thing out for another year. But then he would have an incredible amount of freedom to make deals, to wheel and deal, to do the things that he wants to do to be a politician because he doesn't owe anybody anything and he's stepping down anyway. I think the other legitimate, maybe at this point, option is maybe the Republicans and Democrats in the middle come together and they go get an outsider. Maybe they can go get, I don't know, Colin Powell to come in and be Speaker of the House or something like that. That's a pretty good idea. Someone should tweet that or something, right? The other option, I don't know. It all blows up and the country falls like the Roman Empire. This is a huge deal, guys. Speaker of the House, follow what's going on and giddy up for the learning. And we'll see you next time that you press my buttons. Thanks for listening.